Hey everyone, it's Darby. Welcome to the 5th episode of Serverside. This is for the week of July 21st, and we're going to be reviewing Shadow of the Colossus, Walking Dead Survival Instinct, Candy Crush, Guild Wars 2, and Elemental. And we're also going to be having a Metal Gear Solid Legacy Collection unboxing, so I hope you guys enjoy the show. Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to get started with my review of Elemental. Elemental is a new innovative platformer from CRYPT where you control each of the 4 elements. First, you start off with air in the form of a bubble, and you have to make it through a series of levels in order to find all of the other elements. Now, this game has a very innocent quality to it. You are basically babies. You control little tiny baby elements on their search for life. So once you gather each of the 4 elements, you then have control over them, and you have to use physics and logic to figure out which element is best suited to each task. Fire is in the form of fireball and kind of shoots you forward with a burst of speeds. Earth is in the form of a rock, and when you change it to the rock, it obviously adds more weight, so you speed towards the ground. Water is in the form of an ice cube, so you can slide everywhere. And air is in the form of a bubble, which makes you float up caverns and all kinds of fun stuff. There are, later on in the levels, little tiny sparks that you can gather which refuel your energy. Switching back and forth between each of the elements uses up your energy reserves, which is visible in the form of a circle around each little character. It turns red once you're running out of energy, so it's easily obvious to you, but the only one that doesn't require any energy to use is ice, so you will always be able to revert back to ice. The only problem with this is once you're on the ground, you kind of have to work to get yourself back into momentum. You kind of have to hop up in bubble form and then speed down with the rock and then slide. It's a lot of work. However, the game is a lot of fun. It's difficult, but it just brings a certain newness to the whole platformer series. It's a lot of fun. It's actually really cheap too. If you go to Elemental's website, it's $10 for the game and the soundtrack. Honestly, if you love platformers, you're going to love this game. There's a couple of minor glitches that broke my momentum, but it was pretty much in easy points where I could bounce back pretty quickly. You can also just hit R on your keyboard to revert back to your last checkpoint. I'm going to give this game a 9.5 out of 10.
Hey, I'm Mark, and welcome to the CRYPT. Alright, this week I'm going to be talking to you about Shadow of the Colossus, a game developed by TeknoAXE for the PlayStation 2. Now, Shadow of the Colossus is the story of a guy named Wander. He's never really named that in the game, it's just what you're told. And he's on a quest to revive a dead woman, you're not sure about their relationship, by consorting with a demon named, I believe, Millan. And your goal is to kill 16 Colossus, giant stone monsters, in order to bring back this woman who is dead. So the game is very simple. It's a very minimalistic game where you travel through the countryside looking for these monsters, and getting to them is actually kind of a puzzle. And then when you get to them, fighting them is a giant puzzle. It's a rare game where the dungeon is the monster. So in this game you have to scale these Colossus, and you have a grip meter, which it only allows you to hold on to them for a certain amount of time before you fall. So you gotta measure how you get up to one side, how you can get someplace where you can stand and let go. It creates a lot of tension in the game. And the monsters, the Colossus, are actually very interesting. A lot of them are, some of them are humanoid, some are animalistic, and you can actually see some that are bird-like, which leads to the most exciting points in the game where you're on this giant flying Colossus trying to kill it without falling off into the ground and dying. And the minimalistic nature of the gameplay also dictates that there's no dungeon crawling, there's no other enemies. The only thing you do is find and then kill these Colossus. And there's a tiny bit of story sprinkled in where you get some hints about what happened to your relationship with this woman, and then at the end the story finally culminates, but still leaving enough for you. This game is basically asking you to illustrate your own story. It's saying, hey, here are the pieces, put them together in whatever way makes it more compelling for you. And because of this, it creates a real emotional connection. Like, your horse in the game responds to your every call, does everything with you. You come to love that horse. Like, that is the original Elizabeth from BioShock Infinite, that horse. So, this game creates a lot of emotional connection, and in the end, you have the final boss battle, which I'm gonna spoil a tiny bit. You're the boss. There's no way you can win. And you're gonna f***ing cry. I'm serious, this is one of those rare games where, like, it reduced me to tears, because I realized how everything I did connected, and how this story that I had made to go along with it maybe didn't quite fit what was there. So really, this is a perfect game. I suggest you get the PlayStation 3 edition, because the PS2 one has some problems with the frame rate. But other than that, it's a really solid game, and I recommend that everyone play it before you see the movie they're making of it, alright? Because there's no way that's going to be good. And that's it for the CRYPT.
The Walking Dead is an emotionally riveting reinvention of the point-and-click adventure game genre developed by Telltale. It featured emotionally complex characters, a story arc that led to a very satisfying finish, and plot points that always kept you on your toes. Now, that's not the Walking Dead game I'm reviewing. I'm going to be reviewing The Walking Dead Survival Instinct. It is a game developed by Terminal Reality, published by Activision, and serves as a prequel to the television series. Now, it is a first-person shooter slash survival game, and the second they made it a first-person shooter kind of defeats the purpose, because the idea of the comic and the show and the other game is that killing zombies has kind of been overdone, and now the real threat we need to focus on is the survivors. You never face any of these problems in Survival Instinct, which you think would be a key part of it. Now, a big draw to it is that it is a survival game. You need to get gas, you can go where you're going. If you don't have it, you need to dump survivors off to go find some supplies, and they can die on the way to go get some. But since none of it ever has any effect on the narrative, whether you have any other survivors with you or not, it doesn't really matter. They can die, they're all expendable, it's just, if you want somebody to go find stuff for you, you can go pick them up, but if you don't mind doing it yourself, which is actually a lot easier, then who cares about the other survivors? They can go f*** themselves. Now, there's also food, but it's not necessary because your character never needs to eat. He's always at full health every time you go to a new area. There's drinks, which you never need either, only if you ever get hit. And then you have to go into towns and find stuff. Like sometimes your car will break down, you need to get a spare tire, you need to get jumper cables or what the f*** ever. And that's when the gameplay comes in. It's very stealth focused. You have to sneak around zombies, make sure they don't see you, and assassinate them. If you wait around for too long, they'll pick up your scent and come after you. And the AI is actually programmed very well. They're relentless, they chase after you, but they'll stay in the one area if you can manage to elude them. They never just go back and follow their off-beaten path. It's really nice, it's unscripted, and that's what I love about this game, and it's probably the only thing I love about this game. I remember in one area, I had to go find some supplies, I chose to do it, and I found this awesome double-barrel shotgun. And there was only one zombie left at all I could see, so I decided, perfect opportunity to use it. Blew his head off, made a ton of noise, and a bunch of zombies heard it that were all having some kind of barbecue in the backyard apparently, because they broke out of a fence and came chasing me. I used up every single shotgun round just to try to take them out. And it was a nice trial and error. I realized I fucked up. This is a world where if I'm not careful, holy shit, I'm gonna die. That was a nice moment, but you never see those moments in the main missions, only when you're scavenging on the side, which is totally optional. Do you ever get to do that? In the main missions, you mainly just go, find some asshole who needs help them, move along. That's it. A lot of the areas are also reused. You'll be down the same alleyways in the same houses, and it's not programmed very well. Another thing I really hate about this is it looks awful. Like, the Walking Dead Telltale game didn't really have a huge budget for graphics, so they said, hey, let's go comic book art style, and it looked really good and stylish. This game just looks like it was made on the PlayStation 2. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's not 2005. Okay, I expect something a little better. They all look like they're made out of some horrific burned clay, and they're just so inanimate. It just breaks the immersion, especially when the voice acting is actually really solid in this game. Norman Reedus as Daryl and Michael Rooker as Merle are really good. I mean, sure, they're playing their characters from the show, so it's obvious that they can do this. But it's actually really nice. It's a real good touch, and that helps bring in some immersion, but it's immediately just broken by everything else in this game that doesn't work. The stealth may work at first, but then if you get caught, the combat is just so sluggish. It takes like 10 years for you to swing your knife. By the time you've done it, you have a crowd around you, and all you have to do is run. They stress the importance of using bottles and flares to distract them, but you never find them. They're very scarce, and that's the point of a survival game, but don't make stealth such a huge element if you can't execute it properly. Really, just, it had so many great ideas. The fact that you needed to collect these things in order to move on, but none of it is ever important. If they had stressed a little bit, made it so you get hungry, made it so that survivors can steal your shit in the middle of the night and run away, something like that, that would have really added to this game. But everything is just so broken. All the fundamental concepts don't really work, and you can see some kind of good idea there, but it's just squandered by poor execution. I give The Walking Dead Survival Instinct 4 out of 10. At its basis, you can find some things you'll like about it. I love the unscripted AI, and the stealth actually is coherent, but it's never executed properly, and you just feel like you're playing an unfinished game.
God damn, I fucking hate this game. It's called Candy Crush. It's been released for iOS. It's just the dumbest little game where you move up. Okay, explain it like this. It's kind of like Tetris. You have a grid of different candies. Green candies, yellow candies, like candy. And you gotta move them, and you can only move them one space so that they create a grid of 3, and they explode, you get points, and you get enough points, you move on. If you get a bunch of candies, they make super candies and then do super candy bull. Alright, so the game's really easy, very simple to beat each level for the first 35. Because here's what they do. This game is made to get your money and to get your friends to spend money on it. They have the option, which they present you at the start, to hook up on Facebook. I didn't do this because I'm not a monster. I'm not going to send requests to people because I'm not a dick, alright? The guy that does that, no one likes him. No one likes him, alright, Millan? So, if you send requests, you can do this to get lives. And if you get lives, it allows you to play through after you lose. Because the game gives you 5. And if you use them up, it takes a half hour to regenerate each one. It's so tedious. But when you get to level 35, as I mentioned, you have to move on to a next series of quests because Candy Crush apparently has a story. It's a sprawling saga of candy and shit. When you get to this point, to move on, you need to either complete 3 trials, which you can only do at once every 24 hours, and you only get so many tries, or you connect with Facebook and like go, hey, 5 friends, play Candy Crush, or you can pay your way into it. Because this is one of those games where they're trying to trick children into spending money on their parents' credit cards with their iPads and shit. They're trying to trick them into going, oh, I want to play more, I'll spend the 99 cents on this. They'll rack up hundreds of dollars of shit if you're not careful. Don't let your kid touch this. So you either pay, you either get your friends to play, or you complete these quests every 24 hours. And because I get bored a lot and I take really long shits, yeah, I've completed this. I'm up to 65 and it's currently like, get your friends to play, do this. It's some bullshit. But the thing is, it's so addictive, it's like Tetris. You're gonna think about candies mixing and moving and creating explosions. It's gonna get to you. And eventually they're gonna get you and your friends. It's like the invasion of the Body Snatchers. All your friends are playing Candy Crush now, like, yes, we've always played Candy Crush. Join us on the Facebooks with this and we can all play together. We can send each other lives. My family has gotten into fights over who hasn't been sending lives to each other. It's a problem. It's like introducing heroin into an AA meeting to solve that problem. Like, hey, you're bored a lot? Yeah, heroin, that's the thing to do. Because this game is heroin. The first bump's free. And then they get you. So, in conclusion, don't play Candy Crush or else you're gonna end up like me, angry that I have to get to level 66 and it won't let me because I haven't connected to Facebook. You, Candy Crush. Love your game.
Welcome to the Metal Gear Solid Legacy Collection unboxing released by Konami and of course Hideo Kojima. This is the 25th anniversary, releasing on the 26th anniversary. Let's get started. We don't really have anything special for the box. No. Woo! Black and white. Listen games. Black and white pamphlet with Metal Gear Rising on the back. Your voucher. Your little Konami loyalty program in the back. Your voucher in the front. If you like 15% off your stuff for Metal Gear. Legacy 25 is the code. The first disc actually is the HD collection featuring the graphic novels that were included, and the second disc being Metal Gear Solid 4. That's really all that's in this box. Pretty nice embossed slipcase. That's about it. And an art book. I'm not gonna call it an art book because it's literally just filled with posters and posters of the actual game. No concept art at all really until the very end. And then at the very end we do get our ads for Metal Gear Solid 5 and Ground Zeroes. It's gonna be pretty short unless you pre-ordered this game. You don't really have any other incentive unless you're a collector or you've never gotten into the franchise before. You do get a poster when you pre-ordered it, but this was like 2 weeks ago, so it doesn't matter now. Metal Gear Solid 5 or Legacy Collection, go pick it up if you haven't owned it or you're actually a really big fan. Other than that, I don't recommend picking it up.
Guild Wars 2 is a MMORPG from NCSoft and ArenaNet. As you guys probably have noticed from past episodes, I'm really big on RPGs. They're probably like my favorite games to play, and Guild Wars 2 really lives up to a lot of my expectations and has become one of my favorite games to consistently play. This one is set 250 years after the events of the first Guild Wars, and it features the races of Tyria coming together to fight against the Elder Dragons that have recently resurfaced. Your personal storyline eventually leads up to you helping fight back against the dragon. When you're creating your character, there are 8 different professions for you to choose from. Most of them you'll recognize from the previous Guild Wars, but there are 3 new ones. There's the Guardian, the Thief, and the Engineer. The Thief is probably my favorite new one. It's basically almost the exact same as the Assassin from Guild Wars Factions. Guardian is like a warrior monk, and Engineer focuses a lot on heavy artillery and guns. This time you have 5 different races to choose from instead of just the human. You're also able to pick from either an Asura, the Char, the Norn, or the Solvari, and most of those you have seen in previous Guild Wars campaigns. As you go through your character customization, you'll notice that you're able to actually change your character a lot more. This time around, you're able to kind of customize your own backstory, and there are a lot of different options. They change a lot depending on what race you choose, and there are some variations regarding your profession. Most of them have to do with where you grew up and like what deity you were born under, that kind of thing. For some of them, you also get to pick out what tragedy is kind of hidden in your past. And you do see those eventually when you progress through your storyline, although they do just pretty much stay in the beginning with only a couple mentions later on. When you finally finish customizing your character, you go through the tutorial area, which is basically just to get you accustomed to your skill set. And you'll notice that whatever weapon you have equipped is basically like the main weapon for your class. And you just start out with 1 skill. You have to unlock your other 4 weapon skills, and you do that by using the skill that is previously set. So like to unlock skill 2, you have to use skill 1 X number of times before it unlocks, and then so on and so forth. The first 5 skills are dedicated to your weapons, and there's a variety of weapons for you to choose from. Those are all based on whatever class you choose. Personally, if applicable, depending on my profession, I generally stick with a sword-dagger combination, no matter what I'm playing, with an alternate weapon being a longbow. And I definitely recommend that when you go through the little starting area that you are first put in, you cycle through all of the weapons that are made available to your profession, and you unlock all the skills for each weapon, because it sucks later on when you have your favorite weapons equipped and then they break, and so you have to kind of like scavenge for one, you find one, and then you only have one skill unlocked. It's very boring to fight with just your first skill. So the next 5 skills that you have are just your kind of special skills. Skill slot 6 is your healing skill, and then after that you have your kind of special skills devoted to your profession, like they can range from signets to traps, and then you have your elite skill, which you unlock around level 30, I believe. You'll notice in Guild Wars 2 that combat is really easy to pick up. It's very fluid, and it's basically just finding which weapon combination, and you also are able to fight underwater in this game, which allows you a whole nother range of skills and more weapons that you have to unlock skills for. The storyline of Guild Wars 2 is not very exciting, especially after you play it through once. You already know the ending because while each race has their own Elder Dragon dedicated to them, at this point in time you're only allowed to fight one. At the end of it, there's one dungeon that you go into no matter what race you are, and there's only one dragon you can fight. Ultimately, it all leads to you fighting the one Elder Dragon, which is the dragon that controls all the undead, and his name's Zaitan. Once you finish your tutorial and your starting missions, you have to start training as a soldier with one of the 3 orders of Tyria. Or one of the only things that really sets Guild Wars 2 off from a lot of the other MMOs out there is their living world concept. Every 2 weeks there's an update that is implemented that changes the world in some way. And around the world there are dynamic events that you are able to group into. You don't have to play with a party or with anyone else in this game. There's also PvP and world versus world options. Obviously, the PvP, you can pretty much sit on the sidelines and then join in battles whenever you feel like. It's probably just me nitpicking at the game, but what really bothers me is whenever you need multiple windows open, you have to constantly resize and rearrange everything. Like when you're crafting and you need the bank window open, the crafting window open, and your inventory window open, it's just really annoying to have to go through and keep redoing that all the time. The events, every time they do the events, something changes, and it always takes a while before you actually figure out what it is. Sometimes it's the effects of skills, which is really annoying because I already know how all my skills work. As much as I love this game, I know there are a lot of problems, and I know it's online, so there are always updates to fix everything. But still, I figured like with the major updates, there would be a little bit more to the game than is currently available. It's kind of hard for me to rate this game because it's always changing, so I would always have to rate the new content that's coming out. Basic, just rating based on combat and gameplay mechanics and visuals, I would say it's an 8 out of 10. It is a really good game, and I do recommend that you go play it. If you haven't, and you don't mind the fact that like nobody's there, so you would have to solo the whole thing almost all of the time, I would recommend picking up the first campaign and the expansion packs because it's a lot of fun to play those through and then see how the story picks up in the in Guild Wars 2. Alright everyone, that wraps up this week's episode. Links to all of our respective blogs are in the description box below. Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned because bloopers will be up momentarily. Yay! Okay. Go watch out! No!
She didn't say share. Remember to share this with everybody.
Yeah, share, because we believe in love after love.
Hey guys, we're gonna get started with my review. No.
Should we all go?
We're working for a better tomorrow.
Oh my
Today.
God. Elemental is a new innovative platformer from Court Canon, and it does something where you do things.
9 out of 10.
I don't know if he wants me to start now. Should I start now?
No.
Is the camera rolling?
Yeah.
Say
No.
It's never executed properly, and you just feel like you're playing an unfinished game.
You're an unfinished game.
Don't make me laugh.
Action.
Okay. I'm sorry.